One of the challenges with memory keeping in your journal is that the layout inspiration online looks kind of daunting. Yes, a lot of them do look beautiful, but they also look kind of involved and not so beginner friendly. To combat this, I've been using the same super simple layout in my bullet journal for memory keeping since 2021 with no plans to stop. So what is this layout, how do we set it up, and how do we use it? Originally, I didn't have a set name for this layout, so this one's just titled, "Hi, it's Jess," but the idea was that at the start and end of using any journal, I'd record my answers for the same prompts. So we have the prompts down the middle, we have the first day of using the journal here, and then the last day of using the journal here. Next to each of those prompts in either column, I just write my response, and it was always nice to see how things changed across the life of one journal. The second time I used it, I decided I wanted to have a proper name for the page, calling it the then and now, mainly because at the kind of last contact point, or filling it in the present moment of December 31st, it would effectively be saying, these are my answers now, what were my answers then? Similar setup though, we just have those prompts down the middle, with space on either side to record my responses to that prompt. This one notably lasted for the span of a full year rather than the span of a journal, but when it came to picking the prompts for the middle, I was just thinking about things that might actually change over that course of time. So previously, it was what do I think will change in the span of 6 months, whereas for this one, it's what do I think can change in a year. Obviously, if you're doing a yearly snapshot, then there's more flexibility in terms of what things might change, but this 6-month version was effectively my ooch or trial run at making sure that this layout was going to work for me. Notably, I liked it, so I keep using it. The third time I set it up, I decided it needed a rename, so I went with then and again, mainly because it kind of rhymes. Exactly the same setup in terms of like the structure, but just making that top section a little smaller so I could include more prompts. Some of the prompts I keep the same from year to year, whereas other ones will kind of change out depending on what's actually of interest to me at the time. This is my current version of the page, so you can see this goes from January 1st to December 31st. Currently it is not December 31st, or the date hasn't passed, so I haven't filled in my responses here yet. And yes, depending on what prompt I use, because a lot of these prompts I do keep the same year to year, we do sometimes have a little bit of a double up in terms of the information. For instance, this one I recorded a movie recently enjoyed, so Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. If we flip back to here, I also had a movie enjoyed, that one being the same movie again. Between December 31st and January 1st, I didn't watch any additional movies. In keeping with that train of thought, you don't have to make it for January 1st, December 31st. Maybe you just want to record it in a kind of long-term journal and just do this as a snapshot at the start of every year, or the end of every year. I set this one up as part of my annual collections though, which is why I have mine saying January 1st, December 31st, and that kind of duplicate of information going from December 31st of the previous year and January 1st of, well, what is now the current year. In terms of the prompts that you want to include on these, they are completely up to you. I often like to do ones related to different types of media that I'm consuming, any kind of goals that I've set for myself. So if it's about like health related things, it could be about like weight, average amounts of sleep that you're getting, current health stressor or health problem. Having a look at this one as an example, we have savings, weight, current food obsession, recently consumed movie, enjoyed song, TV show, book, game, something I recently tried, something I want to try, a recent accomplishment, a phrase or kind of like saying that I've been using a lot, a current problem area, something I'm looking forward to, and something I'm nervous about. In terms of the previous year, these were much the same, except I also had my goal that I was working on, and also anything that I recently learned. The year before that, the prompts were all duplicates of ones we've already seen, and for the first iteration, these are also duplicates, but it kind of just goes to show that once you pick your prompts, often you want to stick with them. Plus, by using them time and time again, it means I have that really nice comparison point of these little snapshots of myself. In terms of how to set up a layout like this though, I like to go in first with any kind of like header decoration, make the page look kind of nice because if it looks nice, I'm more likely to use it, and then I can label the left and right hand side of the layout as either then and again, or maybe put in the date numbers if I know the span of time I'm doing this over. So often for me, that'll be January 1st and December 31st. Going down the middle of the page though, this is where I I want to put in my divider, but ensuring that I have some gaps to put in the prompts that I'm going to be responding to. I normally put it in so that each of the prompts just takes up one dot grid box vertically, and then there's a dot grid box underneath this just as a buffer between those prompts. This also means that when I come to write in my responses, I have a vertical centimeter of space on either side. Horizontally, the spacing really depends on how long the prompt is, so I try to keep the prompts fairly short, quite snappy, so that then they're not taking up too much space that I would otherwise like to use to respond to the prompt. Most of the time, my prompts don't take up more than 4 centimeters of space, which means I still have about 4 to 4.5 centimeters on either side of the prompt column to put in my responses to each of those. In terms of the one we're setting up here, I did a highlight for each of the prompt areas, so giving 4 centimeters of space to write that in, 2 centimeters on either side of that dividing line. You don't have to put the highlight in, you also don't have to put the highlight in so that it's equal going down the entire length of the page. I often don't put a highlight in because I prefer to just have it so that the prompt takes up as much space as it needs to. And also I kind of feel like it's a little bit easier to make it look like I've balanced the spacing properly, like put the prompt in the actual middle of the line, if I don't have the highlight there. If the highlight is there effectively showing me where the middle should be, then any kind of misalignment in the centering of my text looks a little bit more noticeable. This is of course a personal choice though. You can decorate and structure your page however you want, but essentially mine is 3 columns, one for the response for the first part of the year, the middle column for the prompt itself, and then the right hand column for the response that comes later. Obviously I've given some ideas of prompts in this video, ones that I typically use, because I like to lean into the same kind of things each time, but a couple of other ideas you could include. You can include something you're curious about, something that's on your wish list maybe, or we do also have a list of 50 other ideas. That one's in our free resource library, which is linked in the description box below, or you can use the QR code on screen to take yourself there. That one also has things like year at a glance printables, other checklists, and helpful stuff for your journaling, so it's worth checking out. Once you've set up the layout though, then all you have to do is fill it in. I find that filling it in at the start is a lot easier because the text is left aligned, compared to trying to fill it in at the end of the year where I like to right align my text. You don't have to right align it, you can still left align it. I just like how it makes the page look balanced, but I just love how easy this version of memory keeping is. If you were looking to do more memory keeping in your journal though, and you wanted some more ideas, then the video we have on screen here is the next one to check out. In that one we talk about some things that you might want to consider before you get started with memory keeping in your journal. So click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.